Just like Fallout 4, if you were to ask me how I'd rank God of War 4, I'd tell you that it's a top 10 game of all time. After beating the Valhalla DLC for Ragnarok, it was the first full game I played on my new PS5, then I made the VATS video, and then it was the second full game I played on my PS5. But this time, I wanted to know if I could beat God of War without damaging anything using the Leviathan Axe or the Blades of Chaos. Once I created a new save, I told a tree that I sexually identified as an Apache attack helicopter, and I screamed at it to use my pronouns of chop chop. Kratos' first line of dialogue was ended with him saying boy, and I tied up and waterboarded the victim of my socio-political commentary before reminding it of those chop chop pronouns. The squat missed his mommy, and the angry one began the plot of the game before beginning the actual game, and the game actually began. Unfortunately, because of how the game is designed, I have to use the axe, and later the blades, in order to maneuver the environment and gain access to items. But that doesn't count as damaging an enemy because it doesn't have any health, just a hitbox. So while I can't complete the game without them entirely, I can get by with only omitting them in combat. I follow the stag into my first combat encounter, missing a very important detail along the way, but defeated the Draugr handily, so I didn't overassume much. I grabbed a canonically accurate snack, saw my prey, and followed it into Bleak Falls Barrow. The Draugr were pushovers, and I had to use the axe again to hold the door open so I could proceed. Shortly thereafter, I caught up to the plot device, put Blitzen on the floor, had a moment with my son, and some tall prick with a rock stole my dinner to be. This is where I thought my first complication would arise. See, I mentioned before that this isn't my first rodeo, and any damage done with Kratos' weapons in gameplay counts against the challenge, including the glory kills. And I knew going in that the typical glory kill for trolls used the axe to cleave the face of the troll and then drop the pillar on his face, crushing the rest of his head in the process. I tried to get around doing the glory kill by just poking and prodding him, but the game won't let you go on with your life unless you activate the glory kill. I was able to rationalize, however, that it's basically the same thing as killing the Rad Roach with the BB gun in Fallout 3 and using the Flame Breath on Parthenax in Skyrim. It doesn't count against you because the game forces you to do it. Kratos doesn't even use the axe in this one anyway, so I didn't actually have to worry about it this time. Moving on, the Widow Mans got Angie, so the big one got mad as Ang, and made it home before the real plot began. Little boy Blue decided to pick a fight with the Man of the Moon. I unlocked the Spartan Rage, and without the axe, the fight was fairly even, but I still kicked his ass, except for that one time when he kicked mine. After dropping the scrawny country kid down the chasm, I laid eyes upon the Munchkin, and the real plot could begin. A little way down the road, I got jumped by a couple heavy weapons guys and proceeded to send them to hang out with that one Stingwing. I used the Ranger to knock down the Draugr I couldn't reach because it doesn't count against me to use the Twerp. Found out the Revenant was less of an issue than I thought it'd be, and I made it to the second, but hardest of my trials and tribulations. See, when the Reavers attack you, at the end of that cutscene, Kratos tells Atreus to leave the humans for him, as a callback to some dialogue that happened 10 minutes prior. This presents me with the biggest issue of this entire video. After the main infantry nerds are beat the fuck up, some artillery units rain down poison attacks from above, and I can't jump. I also can't use the little potato boy because he was exempt from this fight for story-based reasons, and I also couldn't afford the projectile counter skill because I was like 800 XP too short. I don't know the exact numbers, I'm not watching the footage at the moment. I then thought that maybe I could use the blast radius from the Spartan Rage to damage him, and then take a little damage to build it back up, and then repeat it on the second one. This only worked once before I got hit with the biggest slap in the face since Will Smith mollywopped Chris Rock during the Academy Awards back in 2022. There was a third twink, and I didn't have enough health to build my rage back up by taking damage. However, I knew that I hadn't done everything there was to get at this point in the game, and the little green rats also gave 100 XP apiece, so I'm not counting those shits against me. I thought maybe there was something else I could do to get the projectile counter, and I ended up restarting the game. Remember when I said earlier that I'd missed something during the first fight? Watch the footage and try to see what it is. If you said the parrying labor, you'd be correct. As it turns out, hitting 25 parries gives you 250 experience, so I did that. 50 parries gives you 750 experience, I did that as well. And 100 parries gives you a whole ass 3050 experience points. The projectile counter costs 3000 on its own. This time around, I had the most essential tools in this playthrough before I defeated the first 2 enemies in the game. Which is nice, but I wish I had remembered that earlier. Anyway, I repeated everything that happened up to the reset, got the first 2 pansies, and then the game decided to wig out, and either I was somehow classified as an object like how society deems men, or the fucker wasn't real, because I wasn't taking any damage and I couldn't parry his attacks. I solved this issue by using the explosion radius on the rage, and that was the end of the encounter. Kratos showed his true colors as a father, and I wasn't the biggest fan of the slow draw of the knife across the Hellwalker's throat.
Come then. We have a long journey.
Oh, the slow draw on that. Why was that so slow?
I will handle this.
After dealing with the Frosty Boyos, I ran into the blue one. He gave me a strength upgrade. I tried out my newfound power, and bid him farewell for now. I raised the death trap, froze it in place, gave death to the ambushers in the trap, hit the 1-2-3 combo to feed my alcoholism before giving the squat a boost, and Kratos once again struggled to express himself to his son. Soon thereafter, I opened the Vault-Tec issued vault door for the second time in 2 videos, obliterated the red roach inside, and came across this fiery pisser. I gave him the old 1-2, he rained hellfire upon me, and when it was all said and done, I accidentally hit him with the glory kill while trying to turn off my Spartan rage, because the stupid trolls don't take damage when they're staggered, and one of the 2 buttons used for the Spartan rage is the same as the glory kill button. Regardless, I had to reload the last checkpoint because, as discussed earlier, that very much counts against the challenge. The second go around wasn't nearly as smooth as the first, but I still managed to get the bastard down all the same on the 3rd go. I then found the fruit the evil wanted, and my health bar went up. I used the boy to shoot the pig, he ran, another one of the bluers hit me with their stupid timing window, and so I showed him that I'm the big titty goth girl of his dreams because of it. Hit the pig, he ran again, I made it through the maze in a personal best record timing, and found out that the pig was a boar. He was also the property of the Wicked Witch of the West. She forced me to piece him back together. I carried him to the turtle, grabbed the lady some flowers, handed the boy his knife that you didn't know he dropped because I didn't tell you he did. I opened the door, accidentally skipped the cutscene because I wasn't thinking, and she sent me on my way with a compass. I followed that up by winning dodgeball against the floaters, finding something I wish I had sooner, pushing off in a boat, and I found my way to the Statue of Tyr in the middle of the Lake of Nine. What's supposed to happen in this cutscene is that Kratos throws his axe out to the loch, and the world serpent Jormungandr spits it back out, but my dumbass skipped this cutscene too, so I can't show it. Anyway, with the dropped water levels, Brock showed me to a shop in the temple that's been drowned for 150 years. He gave me a neat rock. I turned the reavers to mush at the end of the bridge, fought the Tatzel worm in the cave ahead, clambered in an upward direction, and met the not blue one. Kratos then showed Sindri the axe that shouldn't have blood on it, yet does, and after he upgraded it, I used it to acquire something to quench my thirst. I cha-cha'd with the revenants, ascended more, dealt with Gozer, Soule, and Finns, tried to open the door, and then for the one and only time in the game, one of the big monkeys talked to me. I don't know what he said, but it was probably racist. After Kratos used the axe on it in the cutscene, I had to be careful, because Kratos definitely uses the axe in the glory kill to finish off the ogre. I avoid having to reset the load, and made it to the foot of the mountain. Unfortunately, I couldn't ascend because there was some fog in the way that the gents didn't want to go through, probably because it's black. The fairy godmother appeared out of nowhere, and I was told news that shook me worse than when I heard that the boat hit the bridge in Baltimore that I was never going to go on anyway. I could only progress the game by getting the quest items from Alfheim, Land of the Elves. After nailing the shitter on the cliff, I descended, turned the bridge, left my axe in Midgard, and set my destination to a land more unforgiving than hell itself. Once I opened the door to Jonestown, the non-believer got whisked away and left me to fend for myself before I encountered the worst take on Drow in all of fiction. The buggy fuck shot me because I wasn't paying attention. They hit me with a 3-piece no biscuit, and it was here and now that I decided the challenge run was specifically no axe or blades and not just no weapons, because I absolutely used the Dark Elf Glory Kill to my advantage and impaled the shit out of them with their own spears at every opportunity. Sindri proved he can beat me in a race off-world. The voices told the child there were bugs in his skin. I threw a high-calorie individual off a cliff for some special dust, discovered the technique to surpass the stupid elves, and used the bowl mechanism to part the water because God doesn't like me enough to ever throw me a bone. After descending, I sent more of the buzzy fucks to the sting wing from last video because it's effective and really fucking funny. I broke some rocks to acquire the fruit of eternal life, and my child was snatched by the fat shit, so I punched the stone in my anger at his short-sightedness and dropped a large stone construct on him. The child, not the elf. That should teach him for being short. After that debacle, I was beating the life out of this nerd, and the real game decided to begin when the stone giant of Asheim awoke. The way you typically defeat him is by waiting for him to take his cap off so he can spray his load all over you. You check the Leviathan axe into the burster's chest, he drops his shaker balls, you throw them back at him, and then you run down the railroad tracks. As you may have guessed, I can't do that for less than obvious reasons. You can only attack his glowy bits, and I can't get close to the rock without him essentially one-tapping me, and he doesn't have any projectile attacks that I can counter. My only chance was to use the shrimp to shoot him 3 arrows at a time until he keeled over onto my level and I can induce a cardiac arrest. The final attempt alone ate almost 30 minutes of my life. I fucking hate Alfheim. Forgetting about that bullcrap for a minute, I froze the wart off the wall and chopped it off so I could activate the bridge. I crossed the bridge, and the asshole developers pulled a Skyrim on me. The door opened from the other side, so I rang some bells for some rage elixir, and my hatred of Alfheim fueled my power. I used a callback to my last video to get the jump on the backside of one of the blueskins, punched a ball sack for an immediate vasectomy of both nuts, made it to the center of my problems, there was some testicular torsion in play, and I raged without putting away my axe first. That part is kind of important, because after I pounded my way through the exoskeletal here, the game is set to automatically pull out the last weapon you had equipped, and it certainly wasn't my guns. So I had to reload my last save, torsioned the testicular again, and used the counters to my advantage before freeing the light from the dirty buggers. I stepped into the light. It was dark. I noticed the horizontal door above the rock wall. Homeboy was reasonably upset. I got some sippy sip, and while in the dark room, the French monarch attacked me. He blinded me with his cigarette smoke, and I killed him. His only crime was being called French as a joke. I was not done with Alfheim, so I went back to Tyr's temple, traveled back to Midgard. Brock gave my axe a thwack. I hit that one turret on the bridge on my second try, a new personal record, ascended, and used the light to clear the black breath. The Wendigo man in the mountain made me a door, clearing the nightmares with a counter as a dream, smacked the snitch, flashbanged that dude before tearing him asunder, began hoping that I wouldn't end up like the last guy who used this challenge video format when I got another drinking horn, and I made it to the claw elevator when Brainstem decided to keep it short and fucked it up. I fixed it, made mincemeat of the troll who thought he could get the jump on me. I set up my escape plan, escaped. Little man sent a prayer out to the plot device he calls Mother. Things got a little heated at the traps, so I had to turn things down. After that, I pushed my rocks to my desired destination, something Sisyphus never could. Some bloods didn't like that I was up in the hood, so I dealt with the problem and got my ride back up and running. Broke down once more in crypt territory, and it was time for the lizard. I drifted my whip into his dome, and he tried to flee like I'm a cop, but he totaled my ride, so I gave chase. The axe I left at the bottom of the mountain suddenly appeared in my hand. Kratos did the cutscene thing. I couldn't do anything well in his mouth because both heavy and light attacks used the axe, and he spat me out in an arena where I discarded of my axe. I tossed some old syrup at his face that stuck him to the ground, and I used the opportunity to jump his ass with these guns. He got up though, so I tried tickling his tootsies, and he stomped on me. Rinse and repeat, and I was able to put a crane in his forehead and leverage that to blow a hole in his neck. I remembered why I loved this game. Sindri gave me a foreshadow and did an upgrade so I could proceed with the game, clambered further up the mount, got kebabbed by yet another of those blue wet wipes. His buddy tried to do me a fright, but I foresaw his being there, proved that the Loki of myth is useless, ascended more, and finally, after climbing the 7,000 steps, I made it to High Hrothgar. After setting up the climax for the game, I made my way past the Greybeards and finished making my way to the throat of the world. Unfortunately, instead of Parthenax and a notched pickaxe, there was just Harold and Bob from Fallout 3. Harold told me that my peak was in another plane of reality, so I took him with me to make sure I get to my destination. However, in the process of cutting off his head, I accidentally killed him, so in order to have my tourist brochure, I found more alcohol and took him to Freya. She got angry at my plot device, did a magic, got kinky, I let the door hit me on my way out, I got hungry, the snake got hungry, Rob Zombie spoke with the sparkling conversationalist, and I was off to get the piece of a chisel so that I could open the gateway to Jotunheim. Before what happens after I dropped the gate in Googlies, I dropped the gate in Googlies, made it to the North Pole, found out that melee against wolvers is hella effective, used a ring to break the ice, apparently, how did you get in my house, and I'm calling the police are worse answers than no, made it to the ice rink, cosplayed the ATF, the Ice Ancient has different projectiles than the nerd in Elfland, so I could counter his ass easy peasy. I made it to the arena, saw that the ice was thicker than your mom, realized that so long as I don't hit the ogre, I don't hit him with the final kill, and cause him to just attack the other enemies. Since you tried to court me, I bested the time trial elevator, gave a push to drop the hammer, took a little ride, table, troll, furries, Shrek, walked past the Draugr Deathlord, got the chisel, stupid bitch and his brother whiny shit decided to drop in, and I kicked ass until the divider. See, during this fight, the Double Dunce duo will change things up by blinding you and putting you on the defensive, which is fine, but for whatever reason, after it was over, Kratos pulled out the axe without me noticing, and I accidentally hit stupid bitch with it a couple times before I noticed and had to reload to 5 seconds prior. This time, I made sure I put the axe away, rinsed and repeated like with the dragon because it's a normal-ass boss fight, and after draining both their health, I was thrust into a cutscene in which I have to initiate Kratos using the axe to kill Magni with the progression example. But I wanted to see what would happen if I didn't press the button, and it just loops forever and ever. So I eventually ended it. Modi dropped out of the conversation, and I got the chisel piece that I needed to carve the rune at the throat of the world. After dooring, I did the horizontal lift, went boating, doored again, and whiny shit popped in. Caught me off guard, said a your mom joke, Atreus couldn't survive COD lobbies, and I got tired of the baby's tomfoolery. Before continuing, I had to get the boy revving up again, so I took him to the woman, but her heart was too warm, so she told me to go get a cold one in hell. I took her pedal raft because I needed something I wasn't going to use. I finally got the timing window on the White Walker, grabbed the nostalgia bait, didn't use it when I was supposed to, and left for the cold land. There really isn't that much to talk about in hell, to be frank. I fought the Bridge Keeper, which was just a unique troll fight, used some sick-ass timing to best him, staggered him, had to perform the glory kill because I couldn't kill him otherwise. I don't need to explain any further why that doesn't feel me the challenge. Did some open heart removal on the corpse, Brock did a smithing, I saw something I wasn't supposed to, returned to Earth, gave the quest item to the female, the light made her eyes look like they were different sizes, the child awoke, and I was done with the sickness. After leaving the cabin in the woods, Kratos slipped into the past and would begin Shortstack's asshat adventures. While listening to one of Mimir's stories, I discovered that Kratos be big chillin' in the boat before continuing where I left off. While descending, I noticed that the axe was still at Freya's, and once I got to the bottom, I unlocked the first gate without a problem. But when I went to do the second one, some weird nightmares popped up, and before I knew what happened, I had just killed one using the blades and had to reload. After getting that sorted out, I got the rune stone, it activated on the squirt, Atreus called someone taller than him little, finished the PUBG sweat, there are consequences to saying the N-word, and Shitstack wouldn't help me with the ancient, so I tried using the Rage Blast. But after it only worked a few times, I ended up throwing a rock at the rock, and that worked stupidly well. Made it back to the throat of the world, showed Mimir his severed body, opened the portal, and Lieutenant Mullet showed up again. I dropped the portal on him, and myself. The baby got angry. $30 haircut made off with the child. I took a jump, dropped the lizard. The axe appeared on my back out of nowhere, and got flung back into the cold zone. After yelling at my offspring and making my way through the refrigerator, I had some deja vu, struggled a little more than I should have with the Traveler, witnessed Schizo doing the crazy thing, and made it to the boat. I lit the fires, raised the sail, and the Destiny's Bounty set off. Unfortunately, however, I don't get good things, and my exit was compromised. The whole thing is another time-based event, like the one I didn't really talk about earlier. During this, I have to kill the slushies before they either kill me or put the fires out and we fall to our death. But the fires can only be lit by the blades, so I have to be mindful not to eviscerate anything trying to reset my timer. Anyway, I successfully did it first try, had some deja vu, and abandoned ship before I needed a string band to serenade my capsizing. Moving on, we discovered the final way that we had to get to Jotunheim, had the Holdra brothers make some mulligan key thing, used it on the door that nobody saw beforehand, flipped the world tree like a boss, got the Unity Stone that was shown in the image, made it to the realm between realms. I began to realize that Kratos has a thing for jumping, found the Jotun Tower, completed the Trials Within after OBS lost everything prior to this fight, and we made it back to Midgard before trying to use the now renewed tower. There, as there always will be, was a problem plaguing my progression. Whenever you use the travel rune, the light has to pass through a crystal in order for the travel to happen. There is no crystal for Jotunheim as a final measure to prevent Odin from Odining, so I had to use the eyes of the hip head to get through. There, as there always will be, was a problem plaguing my path. My mirror only has one of the two eyes needed to perform the journey. The twin hovels said that it was in the snack. I fell to the seagull, and asked the snake for a little taste of vor so I could retrieve it. He let me in, I got it, I put it in the bodiless horseman, and on my way out, I got thrown from the snake and landed just outside of Santa's workshop. The Lorax showed up, speaking of the words of the trees and snow. Lincoln Park emerged from the waters like Godzilla on his way to eviscerate the island of Japan. I got in the way of a really bad family get-together, and the battle was on. Freya is a pivotal part to the story of this final battle, but damn is she annoying. I'm over here mollywopping Baldur, and she keeps tying me up.
Hey, yo!
Anyway, after making it far enough into the fight, Android 13 got an unlucky hit on Gohan that trapped his energy shield. He could not be killed. Freya, as you might have guessed, was not happy about that, so she used the giant to grab me. After falling out, Kratos blocked the fall, I had some deja vu, and the real game could now begin. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. This was my third time playing this game. I had a standard playthrough, a new game plus, and this one. Playing the final Baldur fight without the Leviathan Axe or the Blades of Chaos was by far my favorite way to go through this fight. Yes, it takes longer because you're doing less damage, but with all melee and Atreus skills maxed out and a good knowledge of the mechanics of this game, I couldn't recommend more that you try and do this if you have the opportunity. What's also fun is that Skin and Bones changes between using ice and fire, which would normally force you to switch between the weapons, but fists punch right through it, so fuck you, nerd, with my cool ass cutscenes. After sending him flying again and going for yet another fall, I sang for the laughter, sang for the tear, and defeated Puke Face. But I haven't beaten the game yet. The full truth came out as Kratos continued to show the father that he really is, and I had one last thing to do. After making my way to the tower and opening the portal to Jotunheim, I climbed the steps, let go of the past, boy, got that bag, Ragnarok happened, I found the Jotun, and spread the ashes of the plot device, thus finally having beat God of War 4 without the Leviathan Axe or the Blades of Chaos. And you probably could too, if you wanted to try this challenge out for yourself. I'd like to thank you for sticking through to the end of this video. It came out later than I was hoping it would, but I still have a full-time job, and there's a lot more constantly happening in this game than in Fallout 4. And I have a friend that I've been going through and playing the Halo games with, so I've been doing a lot of other things. Anyway, if you learned something or enjoyed the video, then maybe like and subscribe. If you didn't learn something or didn't enjoy the video, then clearly you did, because you made it all the way to right now. So how about you engage in the video too? I'm thinking of changing up the format for the next video from just a challenge run of the game to something different, but we'll burn that bridge when we get there. This has been The Woodsman. I'm gonna commit